Hello and welcome to another episode of Dela's Voice. I'm so excited for my guest to be here today. I am actually super excited. I can't hide it. I gotta tell you, this was one of those opportunities that came about, and I was flabbergasted when he said yes. So I cannot wait for you to meet my guest and learn from him. His name is Gregory Morgan. Mr. Morgan is an author. He's a speaker. He's a TV talk show host. He is a relationship consultant, a transformational trainer. He is a certified master of NLP, advanced neurological repatterning, and hypnotherapy. There's so much more to Mr. Morgan, as we will discover today. Along with his wife, Dr. Azita Sayan, they are the co-founders of the global organization Embrace Growth that I had the opportunity of being a student of. And I really, truly, from the bottom of my heart, am grateful for that opportunity, because the life lessons and the tools and the strategies I learned from Dr. Sayan has changed my life. And I can tell you with honest truth that I wouldn't be sitting here if it weren't for those teachings. So it is my pleasure and my honor to bring you Mr. Gregory Morgan on the podcast today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate you being here today. And I know that you have a big following. There's a lot of people who listen to you, who partake of your teachings on a regular basis. And I'm so appreciative for you to be here to bring some of that knowledge to my audience, as I want them to get to know you and your beautiful, beautiful organization, and learn a little bit about who you truly are. Gregory Morgan, who is he? Where did he start? And how did you get here? And so before we start, I just want to make sure that we say hello to all the people who are watching us at this moment. I want to make sure that please you share this talk, because the knowledge that's going to be shared here today, you have no idea the lives that it might touch. So please go ahead and be generous and share this talk. Also, don't forget to give us a like. That's
all right.
Okay. All right. So with that, Gregory Morgan.
Who am I? Where did I come from?
Yeah. Who are you?
Yeah.
And where did you come from?
Some of those things that you said in my bio are things that I do and that I have become. Originally, I'm a kid from Oklahoma, that left school before high school was over and climbed out of a window in the middle of the night and hitchhiked from Highway 66 to California when I was about 13 years old. I never went back. I've pretty much raised myself, and I have raised myself. I've educated myself. I've lived under bridges. I've lived in cars. I've, traveled across the United States, hitchhiking about 17 times by the time I was 19 or 20. When I finally settled in New York City, when I was 21, I moved to New York City, and I wanted to become a dancer. So I know that's a very strange transition. There were many before that, but prior to that, I was a country and Western singer in bars and clubs in the Midwest. And so I was a carpenter, and so I made that transition. When I told the guys on my carpentry crew that I was going to go to New York and become a dancer, they had a good laugh at my expense, and they would dance around and say, "You're going to get a tutu," and the fact of the matter is, it almost got into fistfights about it. Then when I got to New York, I was like the Okie. right? I was
Yeah.
like the hillbilly Okie, and so all the New Yorkers made fun of me. And back then, the New York license, the Oklahoma license plate said Oklahoma is okay, right? That's what I used to say on there. So I'd have New Yorkers stop in the crosswalks and go, "Hey, buddy, is Oklahoma okay?" I mean, it was endless the teasing from New Yorkers for Okies, and so anyhow, I bypassed almost all of the students in that school, and within 3 years, became a professional dancer. Toured the world, and well, I performed over 200 shows a year with the Nikolai Dance Theater. I eventually left New York and moved to Paris, where I opened a school of dance and theater and martial arts. While I was in New York, I studied acting at the Herbert Berghoff Studio, Stella Adler. At the time when people are gonna find out how old I am, with when Al Pacino and Dustin Hoffman and those guys were there, De Niro. They were in the class ahead of me, but you'd see them every now and then at the school, and when they were young guys, and then they got in The Godfather and things like that, Mean Streets, and and knew we didn't see them anymore. But anyhow, I moved to Paris. I taught dance and theater and martial arts. I opened a school called Espace Futura. Um, we performed. We had a dance company there. We performed. I moved to Tahiti. I moved from Tahiti to Los Angeles about 30 years ago. I was importing black pearls from Tahiti to sell at jewelry shops here in Los Angeles. I eventually got robbed uh, 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 by the jewelry cartel in Bogota, Colombia. They were combing the streets here, and ended up living in the back of my car again. I was immediately broke. I was in debt for the jewelry that I had purchased in Tahiti for resale, and had to go back to carpentry. Did carpentry here and became a leading contractor. I built multi-million-dollar homes for movie stars here in Los Angeles, in Beverly Hills, and Malibu, and Bel Air, and then eventually I met my wife after having yet another marriage first. I married a French girl while in France. We raised a son. He's an architect now, living in France. And I don't know. That's kind of where I came from. I met my wife, Dr. Azita Sayan, about 24 years ago, and did everything I could to get her to marry me. It took a couple of years. And we finally got married. We started doing seminars and workshops together before there was Embrace Growth. And then we founded Embrace Growth, and here, just hoped somebody would show up. And now we're in about 7 different countries. We do well. Up until recently, this COVID thing, we were doing about 30 events a year, seminars and workshops in about 7 different countries around the world. And I don't know how many thousands of students we have. We have radio and television. I know we've done over 5,000 hours of radio and television broadcasts. And so here I am now talking to you.
So you could say your life has been like,
no. It's been like that. Yeah, there's been some definite ups and some definite downs. There's times where I think I'm so lucky that, I'm the king of the world. And then, a few years later, I found myself at the bottom of everything. And so, I've gone through deep depressions, where it seemed like the bottom fell out and I lost everything. And I didn't think I'd ever get back up again. And, it's interesting because recently, some people know, some people don't. I'm currently in a wheelchair. I was recently in a motorcycle accident and almost lost my left leg. They've managed to put it back together with a bunch of metal and things, and they say I'll walk again on it. It is getting better all the time. But there was a moment just a couple of months ago where I was basically found myself leaving my body and fighting to stay in the physical world. And, you know, fighting the possibility of them saying that they might have to amputate my leg. And so now I'm home. I'm very happy. I can tell you that I can get up and hobble around, and that by the end of August, I should probably be walking on both feet again.
Amazing. What's the biggest lesson you learned from this?
Um, wow. It's hard to say what the biggest one is, but
You mean there's more than one?
well, yeah, there's it ran very deep in the sense that I was brought to tears, and still am if I just think about it, by how much I'm loved. Sometimes we have no idea who loves us. There's people that I just thought of as acquaintances, people that I knew, and I cared about them in some kind of distant, detached way. But when I found out how devastated they were at the possibility that I was hurt, and they've expressed so much love and so much generosity to me that it just blows me away. So I think the biggest lesson, I think, is that we probably take for granted every day how much we are loved by the universe, by the people in our world that we don't that maybe that we just see every day. You know, there's people that do my dry cleaning that were devastated that I was hurt. You know, people that you just don't even know. You know, not to mention the students and clients of Embrace Growth all over the world who've expressed amazing things to me. That, you know, if you even just had that one time in your whole life, one person gave you that much love, it'd be enough to knock you off your feet, you know. And I'm just overwhelmed by it. So I think the biggest takeaway is please never take for granted. You know, don't forget to let the people in your life know how much you love them. You know,
That's advice. So there's the comments are coming from people who love you and they think that you're an inspiration. And for sure, I mean, what you just said, I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of people. We do take that for granted, and thank you for sharing that with us. I want us to move along and go to the topic. I asked you to pick a title for the show, and you didn't hesitate, and you just said, but of course, it's going to be discovering your authentic self. And so, why is that important? Why do you think that's important?
well, there's nothing like almost dying to make you get real about life. Right? Like get really real about like what really matters and who am I really. It comes to you, you know, and you know sometimes I'm gonna it'll seem like I'm off track, but I'm gonna say this as a background to what I'm gonna say next, and that is in the original language that the Bible was written in, the word sin meant to leave the path. It just meant that you went off your path, right? Now, I'm a Taoist, and the Tao means simply the path. Okay, the Tao just means the path, the way. It simply means the way, and it's not a religion. It's just you follow your way, and that's what I've been doing all my life. Before I ever heard of Taoism or any of that stuff, I just have been following my way. whatever the way would open up to me, I would follow that. Something would pull me, something inside that was unique and real and that I knew. You can call it your inner voice, you could call it your guide, you could call it your guardian angel, you could call it Frank. It doesn't care what you call it. You can call it God or Allah or Jehovah or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't care. It is who you truly are. And it's always been there. It's been there since you were a child. Perhaps you had a secret friend when you were a child. Many children do talk to their inner guide as an invisible playmate, But this voice, this thing that's truly you, has always been there. And I have always listened to that voice. And when I haven't listened to that voice, it's been very expensive. It's cost me a lot. Mm-hmm. It's cost me a lot of pain and suffering, and it's caused me to hurt people. I've caused a lot of pain and suffering in the people's lives that cared about me because I wasn't listening to who I really was. And so I think the best way to find out who you really are or to your authentic self is to first really get present to your inauthentic self. Get present to what a phony you are, how you're fooling people, how maybe you've had great successes in your life. And this little voice inside of you would say to you, well, I guess you fooled them, or if they don't, or people would tell you how great you are. And maybe some little voice inside would say, if they only knew,
I can resonate with that.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to different examples because people would, and then there's other times where you were falling down and you were saying, I can't do this. And that same voice would say, get up, don't stop, give it another try, go at it. Don't be afraid, So if you would listen to that voice, it's always for your good. Sometimes it tells you to do crazy stuff, and I have, but it's never guided me wrong. And so this most recent thing, I've asked myself, I've had plenty of time to ask myself, what the heck was this accident about? Why? It was a beautiful sunny day, dry pavement. I'm a master motorcycle rider. I've been riding for 55 years. Okay. I've been riding motorcycles. I'm very good at it. I know everything I need to know to be careful. I was being, and a guy crossed a yellow line and almost ended my life. And there was nothing anybody could do about it. So I'm asking myself, what is this about? When something like that happens? And being responsible for my life, which is what we teach at Embrace Growth. You're the source of everything in your life, whether you understand it or not, whether you believe it or not. It is a place to start. It's a place to stand. It's a place to come from, not a place to get to. So I come from the place that I'm responsible for everything that happens in my life, whether I like it or not. And of course, I did not like getting knocked off my motorcycle. And I had to ask myself, so how can I be responsible for that? What part of it? What's to learn? And so I shared a little bit of it with you earlier, but I had begun to take many things for granted. I've been extremely healthy all my life. I took that for granted. I've been extremely athletic, very physical. I've been an acrobat, a dancer, a martial artist. I've been able to do things with my body very freely, and I've had a strong, healthy, articulate, flexible body, and I took that for granted. And I took it for granted that it would always be that way, that there would always be more than enough money and health and well-being to last a lifetime, that I didn't have to worry about that anymore. That's arrogant. I had become arrogant, but it was invisible to myself. They just accepted that as how it is, and it was kind of an arrogance. There was a lack of humility. And go ahead.
We do that. We do that a lot.
Yeah, there was like a lack of humility. We just assume. You know.
Yes, that it's here to stay forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tomorrow's going to be as good or better than today, and so let's go for a motorcycle ride. Let's
So,
yeah.
okay, so continue, please. So you ask yourself, what am I to learn from this?
Well, I've learned, I've relearned real humility. It's very humbling when you have to ask your wife to hand you things or bring you things or drive you someplace, or I have to ask for things that I just have always done for myself and everybody else, and now I have to ask somebody. Today we had to put water in a fountain, and I had to ask somebody to do that for me. I couldn't go to get a garden hose. So it's very humbling, and so
So
that's
what
part
will
of
you
it.
do different?
Pardon me.
What will you different now that you've had this lesson in humility? What would you do different?
Well, first of all, I think I live in a constant state of gratitude now, for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time for oh poor me, or I feeling sorry for myself, or any of that stuff. It just doesn't come into my heart to feel sorry for myself or to feel bad. My heart's filled with gratitude. The first person that stopped when I was on the ground, and I don't want to give people too many visuals, but my foot was not attached to my leg. Okay. It was attached barely. And I'm on the ground on the side of the highway, bleeding out. And the first person that stopped, that was behind my motorcycle and pulled over, was a registered ER nurse.
Wow.
And she got out with her kit and immediately started doing everything that an emergency nurse knew to do. And she literally saved my life. And so if I ever questioned, there's whether or not I would be watched over or taken care of, even in that moment, it would be it'd be easy to look up and say, why me, God, or something like that. It'd be easy to do that stuff. Or, in fact, that morning, as we were getting on the motorcycles, we'd gotten together, my buddy and I, and said a little prayer: protect us and our motorcycles as we ride today, and keep us safe. And we always do that when we're going on a trip. And then that happened. So you could say, you could be mad at God about that, but no. I was happy that I was being watched over.
Wow.
I was helicoptered to the best hospital in that area. I could have been taken to a local hospital, but they said, no, that's not good enough. Let's take this guy to Santa Barbara. So they took me to Santa Barbara, where there were the best surgeons. We did 5 surgeries. One of them was 11 hours, and they had to sew nerves under a microscope and stuff. So they had to reassemble.
And you're gonna walk. I
Yeah.
mean, how miraculous is this?
It's pretty miraculous.
Right. And so what if it took this lesson, this big, huge lesson, to bring you back down to humility?
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanna tell you that, like, people are saying, thank God that you're still with us.
Yeah.
So there's a question from someone, and I want to display that.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get motivated when you felt so devastated?
Let me think about it for a second.
Sure. And I just want to make sure that we say hi to everybody who's watching us. I have Roshi, Azin, Frida. I want to see all the people who are watching. So thank you. There's lots of hearts flying.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for watching. It's almost a trick question, and that's why it took me a second to answer it. How did I get motivated? Assumes that I wasn't already. Can you see that? It presupposes that I wasn't, and the reason it presupposes that I wasn't, it assumes that you cannot be motivated and devastated at the same time.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, you can be devastated and highly motivated at the same time, right? But we tend to think that it's one or the other, right? I'm so devastated I can't get motivated, but in fact, you can be both at the same time. I learned, and you learned during our workshops, I'm sure, that you can share and cry at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You could, you could go through the most difficult thing in your life and still feel all the love in the world at the same time. So we're not just single focused people, even though males tend to be, one thing at a time kind of thing. But all of my training has trained me to the dance, theater, martial arts has trained me to be hyper aware in all directions, almost holographically. And so my mind works more of like a holograph. I can hold devastation in one hand and go, well, that's not me. I feel that, I can feel it. I have that feeling, but it's not me. It's just a feeling I have. It does not have me. Devastation does not have me. I can have devastation, but it doesn't have me.
So
I never got demotivated.
And we're all capable of doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course. If I can do it, anybody could do it.
Right.
I'm like a kid from Oklahoma.
And so, and also part of becoming aware of being authentic is to be aware, to have that awareness that there is this higher power, that there is this, whatever you call it in your own life, God, Tao, Allah, whatever you call it, is there. And as long as you're on the path,
mm-hmm.
you are staying authentic.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes. And, if you ever, you might, to use your example, be off the path, or that example of being off the path, if you ever were to step off the path and let's imagine a path through the woods, it's easy to walk there. You get off of that path and it starts getting into the thick brambles, and, there might be critters or animals in there or something. So things could get rough, right? But there's a path that opens up before us in life, and it's actually the easy way. It's actually easier to be authentic than it is to be inauthentic. It's less expensive, I'll tell you that, financially, and it's less expensive emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. It's the easy way, really. Being authentic is easier than trying to put up a falsehood. I think it was my grandmother that said, it's better to be hated for who you are than to be loved for who you're not.
Ooh, that just explains it right there.
Okay. So while I have a preference that people love me, I'm not running for office. So I don't mean to be flippant. It's not like I don't care. Of course I care that people love me or if people don't like me. I care, but about that much. It doesn't run my life. It's a minor interest to me,
But Mr. Morgan, doesn't your authentic self by nature mean that you are a loving individual, that you...
Yes, right? I would say so. Who you are is spectacular.
Right?
Who you are is full of love. But don't forget that part of who you are has a dark side. Everything has a dark side. Everything has a shadow side. One side of the hand and the other side of the hand, right? This side of the hand, this giving, loving, caressing side of the hand can also be a fist of death. We all have a dark side. And part of being authentic is owning that. I spent most of a very large portion of my life, about half of my life. And the reason I studied martial arts was not so I could learn to hurt people. I was very good at that. I learned that early on. I learned how to stop fighting. I took martial arts to learn how to never have to fight again. And I needed to be around people who could literally kick my butt and teach me a lesson, because I needed that, because nobody else could. But in these martial arts classes, I met masters and people who could show me that it's very easy to hurt people. What's really hard is to not. One of my black belts is in sword, okay, Japanese sword, iaido, and it's very easy to not ever draw your sword. But once you draw your sword, now things get tough. Once you face off against another swordsman, someone's going to get hurt. So it's easier to live your life in a peaceful way, and this is what I needed to learn. I needed to learn that, the cry of peace and love is one thing from a weak person that can't defend themselves. Okay. It may be a little inauthentic, in fact, you might say. All right. Peace, love, because they're weak and can't defend themselves. But to a warrior, to somebody who very well can defend themselves, to ask for peace is a whole different thing. To live for peace, to stand for peace, when you're in a powerful position. So I could not have got to that place if I could not own the ugly part of myself, the bad part of myself that would hurt people, that would be awful sometimes. So now I know that's about myself. I know that I have this capability, and I own it. I don't try to hide it. So I've spent most of my life trying to hide this, trying to overcome it, trying to not do that or be that way. Now I'm just, that's how I am. Don't piss me off.
What is the danger in not being authentic?
Well, the instant, I think everybody knows that once you tell a lie, you have to tell another lie to cover that lie, and the lies just grow exponentially. So that would be the short, quick answer to that question. Once you start lying to yourself about who you are, and then presenting a false face to others, and then they like this false face, they like you for who you're pretending to be, then you have to keep being that. Okay.
It's true.
And then you become loved for who you're not, and then the moment that part of you, which inevitably comes out, which is who you really are, during the moments of an argument or a disagreement, you'll say to a loved one something will come up from deep inside that you didn't say, but it was the truth.
Yes.
Then the real you comes out. And can that person love you for being like that too? Can that person love you for being like that too? So I can tell you an example, and it didn't have to do with fighting or anything, but when I first met my wife, I kept asking her out. Now, I was recently, when I first met her, I was married but separated. I was living in my own house, and in fact, some of my friends came over I'd gotten this new 2-story place, and my friends gave me a housewarming party, and I invited her to it, and she said no. I said, why not? She said, I don't need friends like you. She said, I have plenty of friends, and I don't need a friend like you. Because I was kind of chasing after. I didn't try to hide it that I was attracted to her and I wanted to take her out. And I kept asking her out, but she would say no because you're married. And I'm like, but I'm separated. She said, you're married and separated, right? But you're still married. And so she was very authentic with me. I like you, I care about you, and you're married, right? So I respected that a lot. But it still hadn't quite sunk in. I thought, well, we could be friends, right? Which was total Yeah, illusion. I knew that we couldn't be friends, and I knew that I wasn't wanting to be her friend. But anyhow, I kept telling her, "Well, we could be friends. Will you go to coffee with me?" No. Can I take you to dinner? No. Uh, cookies and milk. you know, well, can we do anything? And finally, I got her to go to dinner with me. I said, "Look, we could just be friends." And she said, "Just friends, though. I mean, friends." So I don't know. When she got there, I had like nice music on and candles, you know, offered her a glass of champagne. Then we went to a very nice restaurant. I bought her roses and stuff like that, right? And she said, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. What happened to this friend thing? This is not what friends do, you know? And I said, well, I lied. I have no intention of being your friend. My intentions are purely romantic. Well, at that moment, I was just simply being authentic. It was just like, yeah, you busted me. Nah, you're right. Yeah. Well, she told me that that's when I won her over. She wasn't used to having people being authentic with her. So I don't know. It was just a moment of authenticity that actually, bridged a gap. You know, at another time in our relationship, when we were still dating, I told her, listen, I've really fallen in love with you, and I'm scared. She said, what are you scared of? And I said, well, I'm afraid, that someday you're going to hurt me. And she got very close to me and she said, I will hurt you. If you love me, then I'm going to hurt you, and you're going to hurt me. And that's what people do when they're in love. They hurt each other. So if you can't deal with that, beat it, you know? But if you can deal with that, I can too. People hurt each other when they love each other. And that's just part of the deal.
Wow.
And that's when she got me. I went like, okay, I got to, because nobody had ever been that straight with me.
Yes.
And she spoke a truth that was, now when you think about it, when you hear me say it, that's true.
Yes.
It's one of those truths that, of course, everybody sort of knows that in the back of their head, but they play along. They're inauthentic about their relationship to that. You know that if you love somebody, you're going to get your heart broken. Everybody has. I don't think there's anybody listening to this or watching this that hasn't had their heart broken. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you love people, you're going to get your heart broken. Are you going to get back up and love again?
Are you going to make that your entire story, or are you going to make it part of your story?
Yeah. What honor is there? What dignity is there? Spending your life trying to avoid being hurt.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God! You just gets, your world gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And I think that that's how people end up old and alone and isolated, mm-hmm. with nobody to call, nothing to, How many people literally die every day alone with no one to call?
Mr. Morgan, it takes a lot of courage to be authentic.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of vulnerability.
Especially, you have to be willing to be vulnerable.
Yes. Would you say most people, not most people, I don't know if most people are not authentic, but most people who choose not to be authentic, are they afraid of not being liked?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. In my opinion, there's only two emotions, love and fear.
Well, that's interesting.
Two true authentic emotions, love and fear. And with love being really the only, love, in my opinion, is the only authentic emotion. Everything else is going towards fear, moving away from love. If it was on a spectrum with love over here and fear over here, there's love. You've never been not in love. The nature of the universe, the nature of God, or whatever you want to call it, is love. That's its nature. It is for you. It nourishes you. It protects you. It's who you are. How you come into the world, and it's where you return to. It's the essence of our beingness, and everything else is a derivative of that and moving towards fear. Now, there's certain things that you should be afraid of, right? You should be afraid of motorcycles.
Well,
You should be afraid of motorcycles. That's a good thing to be afraid of. Okay? You should be afraid of jumping off a cliff. There's things you should be afraid of, right?
You need fear. You need, like, it's that natural instinct, right?
Right. Fear is a signal from your subconscious that there is something you're not prepared for. Okay. Now, I'm not afraid of motorcycles because I'm prepared for it. I'm prepared for whatever might come up. I wasn't prepared for what happened that day.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anybody could be, but it doesn't. Think of something that you're not afraid of that other people are.
Snakes.
Huh?
Snakes.
Snakes? You're not afraid of them? No. Have you ever had an experience?
No, I've never been stung by a snake. So
okay, but have you seen snakes? You've had.
Yes, I've had them around my neck.
And it didn't hurt you, right?
No.
So that's something that your neurology, your mind and your emotions and your nervous system is ready for, right? Not everybody would put a snake around their neck, right? But you did because you're somehow okay with that, right? Now, I've done that too. I've had them crawl on my arms and stuff like that. When I was a kid, I'd catch them and we'd keep them and they'd crawl on us and we thought they were cute. So I'm not afraid of snakes either. But there's certain snakes that you should be afraid of.
Yes, like cobra.
Right? Yeah, you should be afraid of those. And you need to learn to identify them.
Yeah.
Right? If you saw a garden snake, a harmless little garden snake, and thought it was a cobra and you hurt the snake, that wouldn't be good. Or so forth, right? Or if you saw a cobra and thought it was a garden snake, that wouldn't be good either. So there's certain things that you need to be knowledgeable of, experience, and then you're not afraid of them anymore. Mm-hmm. I know people that are afraid of climbing up a 3-foot ladder, to get something off the top shelf. Mm-hmm. There's people that are afraid of that. And then there's people that will walk on a tight wire between two buildings,
Yes.
Because they're prepared for that. They didn't start up there. They started on a tight wire 1 foot off the ground.
Yes. Yes. So what kind of fear are we talking about then? Because that's not the fear we're talking about. The other emotion to love.
Well, we have a fundamental fear. We all share something that came up for me during that motorcycle ride accident as well. We all share something in common. Okay. We've all been in a womb where we were completely warm and protected and loved, and we were cuddled by our mom, and food was being piped in every day, and you had nutrients and everything, and you had to do nothing except just be there and be nourished. Right. And then one day you got turned upside down and the floor dropped out. Okay. And you were suddenly in a cold, loud world full of strangers who seemed to be in charge. Okay. And maybe you even got smacked on the butt and all that stuff. Right. And then separated from your mother. A lot of things happened that you had no control on all of a sudden. We all share that experience. We all share an experience of coming into the world where things were going just great. And then something shocking and horrible happened called birth, right? So this is in our neurology and it's embedded in movies and stories too, dramas, where everything's going great, right? Can you tell in a movie when everything started going great and they had the nice music and something's about to happen, right?
Yes.
It's embedded in there. That if they just had a movie about everything going great, you'd be bored.
Yeah, probably.
You'd just be bored, nothing happened, right? So something about to happen. And so we all carry this in our neurology, that whenever things are going good, something's about to happen. Something.
That's weird.
Okay, it's embedded. And then for those of us who were nourished by breastfeeding, right? There was a time where you had this powerful relationship with your mother that was sensual and delicious and warm and nurturing and all of that. And then one day that stopped. Okay, that ended. And but during that time, you may have thought this will go on forever. This is life. This is how it's supposed to be. My life. This is my experience of life. And then that experience got ended. So we all have experiences where something was going really great, and then something interrupted that, or you had what I call a break in belonging. You belonged. You were part of all that is. You were just one with the universe, so to speak. Okay. And then you got separated or fractured or fragmented, broken into other pieces. Now all of a sudden there's me and mom's over there. There's me and the world outside of me that is filled with all these people who are not me. Right. There's all these experiences that I don't have any control over, that influence my life. And so we have this mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, psychological hyper alertness that something's about to happen. Okay. And in other words, we are no longer belonging. You feel apart from or separate from all that is. And I could use another word for all that is. I could call it God. I could call it the universe. I could call it life itself. You're separate from life itself. So you are afraid of life because you're not a part of it. So when you start to move towards it being authentic and being a part of life, that means owning your fear, owning your anger, owning your disappointments. When I say owning it, I mean, yeah, that's me. So what? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I got that. Right?
Yes.
I'm not tall enough. So what? I'm not rich enough. So what?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not good looking enough. So what?
That makes such a big difference, right? And you see a lot of people who have so many challenges, and despite those challenges, they accomplish so many different things. Like I heard of a woman who lives in Pakistan, and she had no legs, and she still climbed Mount Everest. I mean,
that's amazing.
Just mind-boggling, right? Mind-boggling.
Yeah, I can't even imagine physically how you would do that, but okay.
Yeah. She did it. The name is it escapes me. But
okay.
But you hear about amazing, miraculous things that people do. It's because they say, "So what?" Like, now what? So I think the question is, why me? Is that's the wrong question to ask. I think the right question is, now what?
Very good. I like that. Yeah. Now what?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
what can I learn from this? What is the lesson here? How can I integrate this into my life? Because I come from that, and I truly believe this, and my life is evidence of it. Everything that has ever happened to me has been for my good. Horrible things have happened to me. I've been shot at, stabbed. I've done terrible things to people, and they've done terrible things to me. I've been hurt, hospitalized, all kinds of stuff. I've had bad stuff happen throughout my life, but it's never defined me in a negative way. Every time, I mean, they say what doesn't hurt you, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Well, yeah. I'm going to be very strong and live for a long time, apparently, because I just, those things are like, so what to me, right? You go to a restaurant, you have a bad meal. So what? Do you remember that for the rest of your life? Oh, this time I went to a restaurant. But people spend their life. I'm a cancer survivor. I'm an incest survivor. And they even make careers based on it. I know people who have spent their have become motivational speakers. Okay, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not degrading that. I'm just saying that it defines their entire life, that they're an incest survivor or a cancer or breast cancer or whatever, or whatever, some kind of survivor. I'm a World War II survivor or whatever.
They make that their entire story.
Yeah. And if you're a survivor, then you must always keep that negative thing around because it's who you are. But, I'm like, so what about that stuff?
Mr. Morgan, there's a question from Ozin, and I want to display it. It's kind of a long one, but
okay.
Let's see. Okay. What advice do you have to distinguish inner authentic voice, intuition, from the mental noise, ego? Either be like what mind considers easy or the state of the flow, soul truth, or a sense of ominous thing coming up, true intuitive feeling, psychic feeling from anxiety or mind chatter?
I would say that that is kind of a complex interwoven question.
That's my friend.
Hi, Eisen. Thanks for watching. She always asks great questions.
She does.
Probably the simple short answer is that we do have sort of a negative voice that says, "Oh, you stupid," or you dummy, or watch out, and injects you with some kind of a fear thing. I would not call that your higher self. Mm-hmm. Probably not, right? The intuitive voice is very quiet. It's very quiet, and I think that is the point of meditation. The whole point of meditation is to quiet that ego mind, that conscious outward focused mind, to focus it for a while inward, and to sort of turn up the volume, if you will, on the inner voice, the quiet voice that you have to learn to listen to. You have to. It may have been the only voice when you're a child. It may have been the louder voice, but as we get older and we begin what I mentioned earlier, separated or fragmented, our personality becomes fragmented. And by that, I mean, you have multiple personalities. Everybody does. You have someone you are with your boss, and someone you are with your mom, and someone you are with your lover, someone you are with your kids. They're all different people. But they're all matched up in your body somehow. But they're different personalities. So we become fragmented. What if you had one personality, one person, one beingness that fit in all situations?
Oh, life would be so simple.
Simple? That's what I'm talking about, becoming your authentic self. Yeah. You could talk to kings and presidents, or a guy bumming something off the street, or someone threatening you with violence. You could be the same with all of them. Can
you practice that? Is there a way
again, I'm going to point towards meditation because that's been my access. Mm-hmm. Okay. That and very intense experiences, some of which I have sought out myself. In other words, I'm the guy that will go jump out of an airplane and then say, "Ooh, let's go do it again." I'm the one who would go to a martial arts class and spar with black belts and get my butt kicked so that I could learn something and go, "Okay, let's do it again." I'm the one that would leave home at 12 years old, 13 years old, and hitchhike across the country and then do it again, because I would seek out intense experiences, and it would be so humbling and so overwhelming that you had to listen. You had to listen to the inner voice in order to just survive the moment and to handle the fear, just like, what would you have me do? Just humbly ask, What would you have me do? You know, and what should I say? Before I came on here today, I just asked my inner spirit to say, please speak through me. What would you have me say? You know?
At one point in my life, I did become aware that I needed to become more authentic.
Mm.
And so what happened was, I think my higher power spoke to me through a free seminar ticket
Yeah.
to Dr. Sayan.
They do that sometimes. Yes.
Yeah, it's funny. So I took that ticket and I thought, I'm going to go and I'm going to learn something.
Yeah.
And I had no expectations. I just showed up and my life changed
Mm-hmm.
as a result of that one little whisper.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will forever be grateful for that, to that person who gave me that ticket. But I want to say that sometimes we need a helping hand, and
Yeah.
that's why coaching becomes so priceless. And
Yes.
that's what you do through Embrace Growth.
Yes.
If there's anything at all that I want to leave people with this talk, is that there is help out there. If you're
Mm-hmm.
suffering, if your life is not where you want it to be, if you think you're meant for so much more, and you can have so much more joy in your life, the help is there. There's people who can help. So can we just do a little shout out to Embrace Growth and the programs that are offered there, please?
Yeah. We do the seminars, and the most, what I'd really like people to know is this weekend, starting tomorrow, there is a Be Extraordinary online workshop at Embrace Growth. You can call the office or go on our website, which has been going under your screen. But the office is also, I'm going to say it, so get a pencil, 310-460-2600. And you can call and register, or you can register online. It's easy. For this 3-day workshop. The first one is Be Extraordinary. And I told them I was going to, I wished I'd have done it. I said I was going to write it all down so I would remember, because I knew that I would forget. Do you know the names of the 3 workshops that?
Oh, I love this Morgan. So the introductory workshop is called Wow, and
I turned it off for a second.
I lost you.
Yeah, you lost me for a second.
Thank you. So the introductory workshop for women only workshop, Wow and a Wow. And
Yeah, the introductory workshop for the women is WOW. We call it WOW. It's women only workshop. The introductory workshop for men is Honor, Integrity, and Mastery. We call it HIM. And then there's advanced WOW and advanced HIM. And then there's some 6 months programs that are for the advanced graduates that are called the Hero's Journey for the men. And for the women, it's called Lovable and Adorable. And then there's some leadership programs, and then there's some youth programs for youth empowerment seminars called Yes for teenagers.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
There's just one question that just
Mhm.
came in. Is it possible? I know we're
Yeah.
running out of time, but I'm just going to ask you that question. Why does someone always act and respond defensive and can never be wrong or handle
They have a very low opinion of themselves. They have very low self-esteem. That's why. People with low self-esteem can never apologize. They're always defensive, and they have to criticize others in order to feel okay about themselves. They have a very weak opinion of themselves. And so their defense is to act like they're better and they're wrong.
Simple.
Arrogance is always a cover for low self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are the most proud, the most arrogant have a low opinion of themselves.
How do you deal with that very quickly?
By being authentic. You might say something like, well, I know that you may be trying to intimidate me, make me feel like I'm less than you. And I see that you're being defensive, and they'll become more defensive when you say this. No, I'm not. You're being defensive, right? They'll do something like that. And then you can just say, see, there you're doing it now, right? You're just being defensive. And listen, I'm not attacking you. I care about you, you know? But being with somebody who's always defensive and who's never wrong, well, it's just not very interesting for me. In fact, I'm kind of done with it. So if you'd like to have an authentic relationship, I would love to do that because I really care about you. And I can see that you must be hurting inside. Somebody must have really hurt you and made you feel bad about yourself. Would you like to tell me about that?
Wow.
Then just shut up and listen.
Mm-hmm.
Just let them talk. And then just keep listening for, if they start defending themselves, say, see, you're doing it again.
And
if you're trying to dominate them, then it won't work because they'll know. Most relationships are revolving around who's going to dominate the other, who's going to win, who's going to be the one on top. Those are power struggles, and they're the antithesis of love. It's the opposite of love. When you're in a power struggle with someone, you're not loving them. You're doing I wouldn't do that to my worst enemy, try to make them feel bad about themselves and defensive and attacked. I mean, geez,
a lot of couples suffer from that kind of relationship.
Yes, they do, because they have an inauthentic relationship. I'm going to say this twice because it's hard to get with reality. They have an inauthentic relationship with reality. Okay. And the reality is there's nothing but love, and it's never been any further than the skin on your, it's been closer to you than your shirt. You've never not been in love, surrounded by it. And to pretend that you have to get some love is inauthentic. To pretend that you have to do something to get someone to love you is completely inauthentic. You'd have to lie about reality. That'd be like, I don't know, a fish saying, what water? There's no water. I have to get some water. The whole time they're swimming in water.
Yeah.
It's like they're made out of water.
You know what else? I think then you might also be at the risk of living for the rest of your life with the people-pleasing illness.
Well, yes, there are people like that, right? They often become nurses and ambulance drivers or something. I don't know.
No, but seriously.
Or grandmothers.
That you always forever will say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, forever.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't, because you're afraid of losing you're afraid of losing that love.
Which is not love.
Which isn't love.
It's not love anyhow. That's what I mean. They have an inauthentic relationship with reality. The reality is that is not love.
Yes.
And it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. Just look. You see, it's plain to see. That's not love. You can fight for it. It's not love.
It's so good.
If you got to prove yourself, that's not love. If you got to be right and never be wrong and make them wrong, that's definitely not love. Love is allowing somebody to be exactly the way they are, with all of their ugliness and their warts and all of their beauty and magnificence, and always encouraging their magnificence, acknowledging, being grateful for their magnificence, doing things to let them know that you see it, and then those ugly parts of them, to just call it like it is. Say, when you do that thing, I don't like that. It hurts my feelings. It makes me lose a little bit of respect because you're better than that. And I want to respect you because I love you very much. But when you do that, it's not very, very honorable. Don't do that. It's
to
simple.
that so we
See
could
how
write.
easy that is?
It's so easy.
It's so easy. That's why I said earlier, having an authentic life, while it may take courage, is so much easier.
Yes, it's
You
so
can
easy.
complete a conversation in a few honest sentences instead of spending a lifetime that other way.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is exactly why we need coaches, right? I mean,
Yeah.
adults can see us from outside, can direct us in the right direction. They can show us things we don't necessarily see.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's their job, right?
yeah,
To
that's
tell you things that you don't want to hear, see
yeah,
things that you don't want to see, so you can do things you don't want to do
yes,
and be who you want to be.
yes, and who we want to be. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. We're like officially out of time, but
Yeah. I
I
see.
could talk to you for another hour.
Well, I look forward to doing that again.
This is amazing. Thank you. I want to appreciate you. I want to acknowledge everything you do, everything Dr. Sayan does. It is my wish and my dream to interview Dr. Sayan on Dela's Voice one day, and I hope that would happen.
I'll put a bug in her ear. I was hoping one of the reasons I wanted to do this at our television studio today was because she might pop her head in. I'll try to do it at the studio next time.
Oh my gosh. Okay, our viewer says thank
Okay.
you for that advice. Thank you very much. I
Good.
know that this interview is going to touch so many people, whether they saw us live or they're going to watch this afterwards. I want to thank you for your time, for so generously sharing your knowledge, and thank you and Dr. Stein for Embrace Growth. You are changing lives all over the world and changing relationships. You are changing people. And that is a superpower that is so admirable. And I want to thank you for that.
It's really an honor and a pleasure. Thank you. There's nothing I would rather do. In fact, it would be inauthentic for me to do anything else.
Thank you. This was a great topic. I really enjoyed myself. And so please reach out to embracegrowth.com and register to one of those fabulous programs.
The Be Extraordinary seminar is $300, and it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's from like about I think it's 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon local time. And then there's a repeat of it in the afternoon for people who are on the other side of the world. So you can find out that by just clicking on Embrace Growth. You'll see Be Extraordinary. You can take all 3 days for $300, or you could take the individual days one at a piece if you want to, at a slightly higher price.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
I know some people who have taken that workshop and they loved it.
We've got extraordinary feedback from it. Yeah.
Well,
We need to do some more.
you want to be extraordinary. You don't want to be mediocre. You want to be extraordinary.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I would love a chance to speaking to you again on Dela's Voice. I would really
contact me anytime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For everyone who's been watching, I want to thank you for your time. Take what you want and leave the rest. Make your life better by living your authentic self. Thank you for joining us. This has been another Dela's Voice, hoping to spark your soul. Thank you so very much.
Awesome job. Thank you. Good day.